Hello, and welcome back to Picks and Portraits. It's been a little while since we've had an animation retrospective. In the past, we've looked at specific years in different networks' history: Spike TV, 2003, Fox, 1999, Cartoon Network, 97, the launch of Adult Swim, and others, including MTV. Given the recent announcement of Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, I thought we'd return to MTV and round out the 90s. We've done a general overview and a video just focusing on 1994, and today we are picking up where we left off by covering 1995 through the start of the new millennium. Now, because it was featured pretty extensively in the overview, we will be omitting Aeon Flux. We will also only be looking at shows that aired on MTV, so while Fred on Your Head was produced by MTV Animation, it won't be included here. I'd also like to look both at the state of MTV and adult animation during this period, because there is a significant change or shift in these 5 years in terms of the network, animation, and culturally, big change. So, let's start in 1995. Aesthetically, not much different than 94. We are still in the era of weird animated bumpers. Music videos and rock are still the primary focus, but this year really began MTV's move away from playing music videos. 1995 marked the end of longtime staples Yo MTV Raps and Headbangers Ball. When we looked at 1994, we talked about the rise of The Real World, a reality show. In 1995, another reality show debuted that would be closely associated with The Real World, Road Rules. It is similar in that strangers live with one another and complete tasks and challenges, only in Road Rules they do so traveling around the country in an RV. The 1990s were an interesting period for comics. Traditionally, the industry had revolved around two companies, Marvel and DC, that would employ artists to create ideas, characters that the companies would then own. Tired of giving up the copyright of their creations to these monolithic comic companies, a group of artists organized a new publisher, Image Comics. Any work produced at Image would remain the intellectual property of the artist that created it. That was the main principle Image was founded on. Their most popular comic is probably Spawn, Tom McFarlane's Spawn. They were also responsible for Savage Dragon by Eric Larson and Jim Lee's Wildcats. These would all receive animated adaptations in the mid-90s, Spawn with HBO, allowing it to be more adult-oriented, and the other two on USA in an action block geared towards kids. The first series we are going to be looking at from MTV was also adapted from a comic that was published by Image, Sam Keith's The Maxx. Like The Head, which we looked at last time, the animated version of The Maxx was produced as part of MTV Oddities in 1995. It featured a hero, the Maxx, who is able to travel between the real world and a fantasy known as the Outback. In the real world, he's homeless, but in the Outback, he's a hero. His social worker in real life in the Outback appears as the Jungle Queen, who he needs to protect. It plays with mental illness and reality in an interesting way, leaving the audience to question what is real and what is just in the characters' heads. From an animation standpoint, it has a really great style, or styles. It alternates between traditional and computer animation, as well as different qualities of animation. This allows for changes in perspective and creates a really cool effect. Some really good stuff here. By far, MTV's most successful animated show was Beavis and Butthead. We've covered its history and controversies before. This show was a pop culture phenomenon, spawned tons of merchandise, and come 1996, the duo was ready for the big screen. MTV had produced one film before, Joe's Apartment, but the Beavis and Butthead movie, Beavis and Butthead Do America, was the first to be developed from one of their properties. Do America sent Beavis and Butthead on a cross-country journey involving a biological weapon. It was not produced in the same format as the show. It still had a great soundtrack, but they weren't reviewing music videos. The animation was also much better. In looking at media around its premiere, I found these great promos, with Mike Judge directing Beavis and Butthead, kind of like the opening of Roger Rabbit. Fan reactions, on-the-street interviews as well. Beavis and Butthead also appeared on David Letterman, who has a cameo in the movie. It was hyped, obviously on the network, and led into the show's final season, 1997. That year, the pair would appear alongside another MTV fixture, Kurt Loder, in a Thanksgiving special, Beavis and Butthead Do Thanksgiving, the same week the show's finale aired. Beavis and Butthead Are Dead. Mike Judge again appeared as a fictionalized bumpkin version of himself to promote the finale, saying he had to do the right thing and take them out. This was not the end of Beavis and Butthead. Shortly after this, they announced they were coming back in a press conference, a promo, and had the Back from the Dead Maranathon. Now, the show was rebooted in 2011, obviously the new movie coming out, and I doubt that even that will be the end. The extended Beavis and Butthead universe continued in 1997 with the spin-off Daria, featuring their classmate Daria Morgendorffer. This series was created by Glenn Eichler and Susie Lewis. It transplanted Daria in a new city, Lawndale, and a new high school. Daria is basically the inverse of Beavis and Butthead. Both shows satirize suburban American life, but where Beavis and Butthead was more male-focused, stupid, Daria looked at this culture from the perspective of a smart young woman. She is jaded and cynical. This was a very popular female archetype in the 90s, dry, sarcastic, cool. Think Ghost World, Darlene from Roseanne, Jeanine Garofalo. In 1998, MTV ran a marathon known as Daria Day, where Daria and her friend Jane hosted or presented each episode from the show's first season. They also read fan mail, apparently sourced from MTV Online, which I think, actually, is the first mention of the internet that we've seen so far. A criticism that gets thrown at MTV a lot, especially the last 20 years, is that they've abandoned music. 1998 is the era of TRL, Total Request Live with Carson Daly, basically a call-in show where you could request videos live. Since this time, MTV has shown music videos less and less, but they do still have a focus on music, just the way they present and incorporate music has changed. We see this in Daria, licensed songs serving as the soundtrack, which has made re-releasing them very difficult. DVDs and other home video releases are available, but the soundtracks are noticeably altered. However, with Paramount Plus announcing true restoration of Beavis and Butthead with the music videos intact, perhaps there's hope yet for a proper release of Daria. When Beavis and Butthead started, there was not a whole lot going on in terms of adult animation. It was really just The Simpsons and a few copycats that were not long for this world. This was not the case when it ended. You had obviously still The Simpsons going strong, Mike Judge's new show, King of the Hill, USA's Duckman, and the show that inherited the most controversial cartoon title, South Park. Intentionally offensive, constantly pushing the envelope, I really think South Park ushered in a new era of entertainment. The late 90s was marked by this very edgy attitude. We can see this and South Park's influence on MTV's Celebrity Deathmatch, which premiered in 1998. Pro wrestling was also huge at this point. Fans today long for this period, and it can't be understated just how huge wrestling was. It was everywhere. Everyone was a fan. Stone Cold Steve Austin, the biggest wrestler of the time, arguably of all time, was a recurring guest on Celebrity Deathmatch. We will also see The Undertaker in a show coming up. So yeah, very popular, and Celebrity Deathmatch tried to capitalize on its popularity by pitting celebrities of the day against each other. Musicians, movie stars, notable people, the voices of these celebrities were impersonated, poorly in most cases. Mills Lane would lend his voice and served as the referee. Lane is a real-life judge, entertainment judge as well, and boxing referee, most famous for reffing Holyfield-Tyson 2, the match where Mike Tyson bit Holyfield's ear. Something else that was referenced everywhere, including Celebrity Deathmatch. You had matchups putting celebrities against each other who would have some relation or something in common. Stallone versus Schwarzenegger, both being action stars, Hanson versus the Spice Girls, Charles versus Marilyn Manson. They ran promos hyping these like real boxing matches, interviews with people in Vegas, giving their opinions on who would win. Celebrity Deathmatch also ran special events during the Super Bowl, known as the Deathbowl. MTV had done something similar with Beavis and Butthead with the Butt Bowl. It ran during the halftime show, and so you see this counter, so you knew when to switch back to the game. The show was produced by the head creator Eric Vogel in stop-motion clay animation. Like most of MTV shows, Celebrity Deathmatch was spun off from another show, Cartoon Sushi. This is meant to be the successor of Liquid Television. a curated compilation of bizarre and surreal cartoons. I love this format. Animation is very taxing and expensive, and so short-form projects are a way for artists to produce work, and shows like this, Liquid Television, were a great way for them to get exposure and to introduce audiences to different forms of animation. Today, Adult Swim keeps this tradition alive, but MTV canceled Cartoon Sushi. It ran just 1 year, 1997 through 98. We have come to the final year we are going to be covering, 1999. This was the year we sent Tom Green down to America. He had a show on MTV. Full disclosure, while I missed out on his public access days, I was a huge fan of his Comedy Network show up here in Canada. I understand why a lot of people would not like him, but I am still a Tom Green fan. Check out his YouTube channel, where he does van and farm life videos, produces weird music. Can't recommend that enough. 1999 was also the year Station Zero began and ended. That's another big criticism of MTV animated shows. They develop a loyal fan base and only last a season. We see this time and time again. Station Zero is interesting in that it aired daily for about a month. It is extremely difficult to track down footage of the show, which was created by Tramp Daily, who was also hard to find info on. The show was a lot like Beavis and Butthead. It was centered around a public access show out of the Bronx, hosted by Chino and Karaz, who review rap and hip-hop videos, riff off and on each other, and their producer. Again, lasted a month before it was canceled, apparently due to poor ratings. The last show we are going to be looking at is Downtown, which premiered in the summer of 1999. In terms of what was going on MTV around this time, the disaster that was Woodstock 99 was dominating headlines. Downtown was created by Chris Pernosky, who was also responsible for the peyote sequence in Beavis Butthead Do America. He would later work on Metalocalypse as well. The show is pretty similar to Mission Hill in that it follows a group of young people living in the city, in this case New York City. It was based off of interviews with real people and really goes for realism. Most of the plots revolve around the interpersonal relationships and conversations of the characters. While it relies on some cliches and absurdity, it does a great job of presenting these characters as real people. Big Clerks vibes here, nerdy, naturalistic dialogue. It even kind of looks like the Clerks cartoon from around the same time, thick lines in the character designs. Downtown feels improvised, not only in the dialogue, but the fluid way. It weaves real life and fantasy. It is very expressive. I love the backgrounds, and of everything we've looked at today, I think this is definitely the show that feels the most modern, even if there are some pretty dated aspects about it. It ran 13 episodes, all of which are available here on YouTube. Like with everything else we've looked at, I will post a link in the description. Counting down to the new millennium, it's pretty clear we are in a very different world than we came into, and I would love to someday continue into the 2000s, because one of my favorite shows ever was produced during that time, but that's going to be it for today. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and if you have the means, please consider supporting us on Patreon. We are 100% viewer supported, and in exchange, we produce a bunch of exclusive content, including some around cartoons, like Century of Schlock, looking at 100 years of animated smut. Also relevant to this video, our new series, Immoral Media, will be starting this month, looking at mass media and moral panic. Sounds heavy, and it is, but it's also a lot of fun. For just $5 a month, you can get access to those and dozens of other videos and series, and help keep these videos and Sleepcore coming out regularly. That's patreon.com/pixandportraits. As always, thank you all so much for your interest in this channel, and thanks for watching. See you in the future.